All right, it's second intermission time. I'm Brandon Mileski, Pat Micheletti with me, and we're breaking down Wild versus Canucks Game 3. And the Wild trailing now 1-0 after that period, Pat. Vancouver scoring thanks to Brock Besser. Did you hear he was from Burnsville, Minnesota, Pat?
I did not know that.
Can't say his name without saying.
Where did he go to school?
Burnsville.
College.
Nodak.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
Well, specifically.
Hey, by the way,
in Minnesota, we love the Burnsville angle.
Yeah. By the way,
yes,
I'm mad at myself for not complimenting you on the shirt you wore the other night.
The North Star shirt.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
No problem.
Now I'm just back to my golf apparel, which I wear 90% of the time.
Did you do it for me or no?
No, I just like the shirt. It had a hockey theme. Well, I appreciate that, but
could have lied.
No one wants to hear about my shirt. They want to hear about the game. And
yeah,
Pat, we said it before Game 2. Stay out of the penalty box. Wild, I think Wild win the series. They did not stay out of the penalty box in Game 2, though. I thought the officials contributed a little bit to that.
Yep.
But here in Game 3, once again, through 2 periods, Vancouver has 4 power plays, and if you give them 4+ power plays, they are going to capitalize, and they did in that 4th one.
And first of all, before we get to the power plays, that was an ugly period for both teams. It was a whole lot of nothing. Passes were off, icings. Not a great period of hockey, but again, you're right. Power plays are key. You can't give Vancouver and that group too many of them. They have too much skill up front, and you gotta stay disciplined. And now Minnesota's going to have to find something in the third because they haven't scored a 5-on-5 goal in the series yet.
And I know you are very high on JT Miller, and even though he he technically is not a part of the scoring on that play because he was, I think, the 3rd pass away.
Yep.
Minnesota's penalty kill has done a pretty good job on Vancouver, I think, throughout the game. But on that one, Vancouver was struggling really to get anything from a scoring chance standpoint, and Miller just kind of took the puck from the blue line and skated it all the way down to the goal line, and that just shifted everything in that Minnesota penalty kill. Then all of a sudden they go up top to Hughes, over to Pettersson, one-timer. Besser puts it in, and I just thought that was kind of a sneaky good play by JT Miller to really throw off that entire PK by the Minnesota Wild.
Well, I've watched this kid for a long time, and he played in New York, and he wasn't a top 6 guy. He goes to Tampa, he's not a top 6 guy, and you could see the skill, his skating ability, his size, the way he handles the puck. And, it's someone I know you and I have talked about, hoping that the Wild would take a look at him before he got to Vancouver, but unfortunately he didn't. But, he's a really good player.
Chase Mickelson, let's talk about the Wild's power play. He says the power play for the Wild is an absolute joke. 0 for 9, going to be 0 for 10 in the last 10. They do have a little bit of power play time here coming out. I started to get some chances in the last power play at the end of the period. It's all of a sudden you're down a goal, and you get that little bit of sense of urgency, Pat.
I think I think they're trying to be a little bit too cute. Everything's on the perimeter. I actually thought the second unit did a fairly good job, but doesn't matter. If you don't score, you don't score. A power play can look good, but if you don't score, you don't score. And, that's the bottom line for me.
Good news, Susie was back to start that period. Foligno did leave for a little bit, but came back on the ice. But, the Wild have been playing pretty physical. You had the Hartman incident, I thought was kind of interesting on the boards there. He hits Pettersson from behind, a very dangerous situation. You and I talked about Spurgeon kind of was almost in a similar spot earlier in the game, and he found his way out of it, but could have been a dangerous hit. After it happens, though, JT Miller sticks up for Pettersson and goes after Ryan Hartman. And I want to know your opinion on this, Pat, because if that is Antoine Roussel instead of JT Miller going after Hartman, referees let them fight. Do they not? I mean, both, because JT Miller and Hartman both have the gloves off and ready to fight, yet linesman comes in. Linesman comes and steps in, and what happens there is, well, one, that's good for Vancouver because it protects one of their better players from not getting hurt, and two, Vancouver was going on a power play, and you could have had, JT Miller out for at least 5 minutes as opposed to 2.
Right. And, it was a break for Minnesota that it was Miller. And, they sent him off. But yeah, if it's Roussel, they're going to let them go, no question.
Luke Garrison says, is this series going to be all Stalock or will we see Dubnyk?
All Stalock. Why wouldn't you? I mean, he's been fine in every game, in my opinion. Minnesota's got to find a way to score. We can talk about the goaltending all you want.
Yeah.
But if you can't score, you're not going to win games, period.
And this is probably this is a topic I'm going to bring up in Wild Fan Line after the game on FM 100.3 KFN. This team has had a history of struggling to create offense and offensive chances in the playoffs. And we're seeing it now throughout this series, especially 5-on-5. They've yet to score a 5-on-5 goal. They're kind of pretty dependent on their power play right now just to even get chances. But throughout this game, when it's been 5-on-5, they're not even really creating chances.
No. I mean, hey, listen, I think they know it. We know it. We cheer for them and we want them to win. But the reality is they need help up front. Somebody to create something. Galchenyuk has been given the opportunity to show what he's got offensively, former 30-goal scorer. And, right now he's not doing it. Zuccarello has not shown what he's supposed to have, what he's supposed to be. They need more out of him. They're not getting it. Yes, Luke Cunningham has a couple goals, but, they need to find somebody besides Fiala. I know we got the Russian kid coming, which is going to help immensely, but you're going to need a little bit more in that in this league, especially.
Well, speaking of that, Delta 672 says, who do you sit next game? Greenway, Galchenyuk, Zuccarello, Pat. It's a little early, given we still have a period to go, and who knows, they might come back and win, and then you come back with the same lineup. But Galchenyuk had another terrible turnover in your own zone in that period. Greenway, I'd have to look back at the previous games, but I feel like he's had a penalty every game now, which you can't have against this team. And Zuccarello has been missing in action all series.
You are what you are. You have what you have, and you go with what you have. What you've got right now. You're not going to put Kyle Rao or guys or a Mayhew in the lineup. They're not going to bring you anything that these guys don't have, or else they'd be in there. You just got to hope that they can find a way to break through and maybe that'll get them going.
Well, maybe Donato. I mean, if you put Donato in more of a scoring type role, he's out of the game tonight, obviously. And, I think Sturm as a fourth liner, I like him, what I've seen in two periods.
I think he's on this team next year. Yeah, we talked about it, right? No question.
I don't envision him being a top six role. But as a fourth liner, I like him. He is what he is. He's not going to be able to replicate or duplicate any of the scoring you're hoping for right now out of those guys.
Remember what you said to me at the start of the series. I think we were previewing, and you said, you know what, Minnesota has a bunch of third liners, and that's it couldn't be more accurate. And eventually the upgrade has got to come, and we know it's coming, but they need another one too. They need another dynamic player, a centerman. We've talked about it, and so I think Billy Guerin, I think the whole staff, they see what they have and they know where they got to get better.
Well, and to that point, Kevin Fiala, you expect to be one of your dynamic players, but teams can focus on him. If he's all you got and there's no one on his line and not another line to score, they can throw the kitchen sink defensively at him. And when he's not scoring, they got no one else scoring right now.
Yep, no doubt.
Kenneth Trainer says, how should the Wild approach the neutral zone? It seems they have a hard time getting through cleanly.
Well, I listen all night. I think that's something you and I talked about during the game. They have not had any odd man rushes. I think one in the first period that kind of broke down a little bit. Well, you know what? If it's not working, then you got to get the puck to the red line and get it in and go after it. Especially when you're not as skilled up front as a Vancouver is, right? You can't try to make the play if it's not there. And if you don't have the skill to do it, get in, pound them. They were successful doing that in game one. And I think they got to get back to that game.
Dougie Mead says, are we lacking the bigger body skill guys to play in front of the net? And Pat, I would just say, I always found it amusing 4 or 5 years ago when everyone would complain that the Wild weren't big enough, not strong enough, when they were a little bit more faster, skilled team. Now they're a little bit slower, and they have some of those bigger, strong guys. I don't think it's not easy to find big, skilled guys.
No.
There's not a lot of them exist. And really, this team has big guys. They've got Greenway. They've got Foligno. Eriksson Ek has got some size. Their issue is they don't have enough skill guys.
They're limited offensively. I mean, let's face it, they are. And Luke Cunningham was not a big goal scorer in college. He's more of that third line type guy. Will get you 10 to 15. I don't think he's a 20 goal guy. Eriksson Ek has not provided any offense since he's been here, but he's a good player. And he fits a role, right? And same with Marcus Foligno, not a 15, 20 goal guy, but he's a good player. And you want him in a certain role. Now, when guys are asked to do other roles, it makes it more difficult. This is where I get back to Galchenyuk, Zuccarello. Zach hasn't produced offensively this series, nor has Eric Stahl has a little bit, I guess. But then you've got Kevin Fiala. That's it, right? And you need a little bit more firepower, especially going against a team like Vancouver.
All right, final question is we're probably about like 2 minutes away from the third period beginning. Matt Johnson says, do you think the lines will be juggled in the third?
Well, I think you got to try something, especially down a goal, and they haven't created, I'm sure the talk is, okay, if they don't change lines, well, let's try this, that, or the other thing, to break through because, they haven't created enough tonight.
I'm not really sure what guys you could move to make it different. The only thing I would say, Pat, is there was one shift in that second period that you and I talked about, and I think it might have partially had to do with Marcus Foligno was injured and he went down the hall, and all of a sudden they were missing a winger, and they double shifted Kevin Fiala. All of a sudden played a shift with Sturm and Koivu, and that would be something that would intrigue me a bit here in the third period when you're out against the other team's fourth line to, hey, let's get Fiala out as a wing, and it doesn't have to be with his usual line mates.
Yeah. Great call by you. And especially with Minnesota having the last change of, being the home team. So they got to try something, maybe get their defense a little bit more active in the play. That may, stretch things out a little bit and, create some openings.
All right, Pat, thanks. Great job as always. I will talk to you on the air on KFAN. FM 100.3. After the game, we'll be here until 6:30 taking your calls and emails on Wild Fan Line.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Bye.